Hi everyone. In the past few weeks I've been seeing this quiet quitting trend populating my newsfeed. So I thought I'd hop on here and do a quick video to help people understand what exactly is quiet quitting and what they can do about it. So when we talk about quiet quitting, we're not actually referring to people silently leaving their place of employment. In fact, we're talking about people remaining in their current position but otherwise mentally checking out of their workplace. We're talking about people not accepting any overtime or any extracurricular activities or projects, barely interacting with their colleagues, really only doing what's minimally required from their position. We're essentially talking about employees becoming tenants of the workspace. So I call them tenants because essentially they occupy space, but they're not doing much else. Is this a new phenomenon? Absolutely not. What it is a new term of a symptom of a phenomenon that's actually plagued organizations for years now, commonly referred to as employee disengagement or presenteeism. And believe it or not, presenteeism can be far more costly and risky to an organization than absenteeism. In fact, an actively disengaged employee is costing you $3,400 per $10,000 kind of chunk of annual salary in lost production and revenue. That's not even taken into account the cost of the toxicity that they're going to be infusing in your workplace culture. Now, what if I told you that I had the antidote to quiet quitting? That I had an antidote to help move your employees, your disengaged employees, from surviving to thriving? Actually, every organization has the capacity to implement this antidote. In a few moments, I'm going to share the secret ingredients of that antidote. But first, let's talk about the formula. The formula to make the antidote involves actually mapping out your end-to-end employee experience. So we're talking about starting to put yourself in the shoes of that employee and looking at how is it that this employee, what kind of processes, procedures are you actually subjecting this employee to from the moment you're actually pitching yourself in the interview, as you're bringing them into your organization through onboarding and orientation. Once they've transitioned out of orientation, we're actually talking about, how are we treating them? How are we continuing to develop them and train them to grow within our organization? Performance management, and how are we using that exercise to really fuel the different motivational drivers all the way through to exit. So you're going to map that out and start to think about what are some of the policies, procedures, and practices that your organization associates to each one of those kind of key touch points of an employee journey. Then we get to the ingredients. You're going to start to think about what is it that makes people want to show up to work? What features of a workplace make people want to not only show up, let's correct that, not only show up and occupy space. What makes them show up and want to go above and beyond and want to thrive and really, perform in their jobs? There are 10 motivational drivers that, when infused into every key touch point of an employee's journey and all the policies, practices, and procedures associated to those touch points, will actually drive engagement and will move your employees from survive to thrive. Let's talk about those drivers. The first ingredient is clarity. People want to work for organizations that help them understand their roles, their responsibilities, but also lets them know what the expectations of the organization is and what, on the flip side of that, they as an employee can expect from the organization. Next ingredient, communication. People want to work for organizations that provide them the information they need to do their job. People want to be in the know, essentially. They want to know what's going on. They want communication to be transparent, consistent, and to run in multiple directions. So bottom up, top down, and for organizations that actually facilitate communication amongst peers as well. Next on the list, purpose and impact. People want to work for organizations that make a difference. They also want to know that the work they do matters and that the work they do actually fuels the achievement of the broader organizational mission, vision, and values. Growth opportunities. People want to work for organizations where they know there's room to grow. They don't want to be sitting in the same position today in another year or so. They want to be able to understand where there is potential for growth, what are those growth plans and those career paths, and then they want to be empowered to grow. Training and development. How do we empower them to grow? By providing them with the training and the skills they need to be able to grow into those other positions, or even grow into their current position. Not everybody wants to ascend to a higher position. But a lot of them want to know that they're continuously improving, and they want to work for organizations that invest and support their continual growth, rewards, and recognition. People want to work for organizations where they feel heard and seen. They want to know that their contributions are valued and recognized. Work-life balance. Now more than ever, post-pandemic, not quite post-pandemic, but on the heels of the pandemic, people want to work for organizations that not only recognize that there's life beyond work, but also provide them with the tools and resources to support them in striking a balance between their personal and their work lives. Autonomy and empowerment. People want to work for organizations that trust them to do the work they were hired to do, but also coach them to really step into their full potential. That starts with leadership, right? Leadership is our next ingredient. People want to work for organizations who have leaders who have been trained to coach and empower rather than command and control. They want to work for organizations who have leaders who are willing to set the direction, but also provide you with the support you need to get you to that destination. The last and final ingredient in this antidote is relationships. People love to feel connected. They want to work for organizations that facilitate those connections between peers, between management, as well as with your clients. There you have it, folks. All 10 ingredients and the secret formula to create the antidote to quiet quitting. I call it an antidote because when infused in that end-to-end employee experience, when organizations take the time to not only map it out and identify where they may be hitting the mark, but where they're probably missing the mark, and then infuse and think about, for example, as they're, bringing employees into the organization, are they sitting them in front of a computer and expecting them to read document upon document? Or are they connecting them with perhaps a buddy who's responsible for transmitting the cultural side of things and the culture of that organization? Where do people go for break? What do they do? Where do they go for coffee? Where can you pick up food close by? And perhaps with a mentor who is tasked with actually transmitting the technical knowledge of that position. Little things that can make a huge difference, right, when it comes to experiencing the culture of an organization. There you have it, folks. All 10 secret ingredients to the antidote. And believe it or not, once you start to map out that employee experience and you start to think, for example, okay, when we're hiring, what are our practices? Okay, how are those practices providing and fueling, providing those motivational drivers, right? How are we providing clarity during the interview process? How are we, helping them understand the role and the expectations? What kind of supports are we providing? Maybe it's, just the job description and then providing them the opportunity to ask questions in reference to the job description. Maybe it's a what to expect document from the entire hiring process. So people aren't left in the dark and right away you're starting to kind of showcase the level of communication they can expect if they choose to work for you. Taking the time to map out that employee experience, then to look at all the practices and assess each of them to see to which extent you're actually providing the motivational drivers that we've just discussed will actually be game changing, because you can then identify continuous improvement opportunities, implement them, and lo and behold, you will have contributed to the creation of a culture that will enable you to attract and keep the talent you need to survive in this new world of work. That culture will be a culture where not only people show up and occupy space or survive, they actually show up and thrive. Want to learn more? Make sure to check out our website and sign up for our Thrive Hive to receive tips and tricks on a regular basis on how to improve and continue to optimize your workplace culture.